are two kinds of people in the world, my friend. Those with a rope around their neck and the people who have the job of doing the cutting.
Oh, no!
I was thrown into a trailer.
Like a dart.
And with us tonight, professional wrestler Kevin Big Sexy Nash. You don't mind if I called you Kevin, do you?
Yeah, please.
Kevin Nash can go to hell.
I like Kevin's ideas.
No!
Kevin Nash.
Good guy, sense of humor.
Scott Hall.
I guess maybe the thing that comes to Scott when you first meet is drugs, you know, and that's unfortunate, you know, because he kind of threw his career away and his life away because of drugs.
Born on July 9th, 1959, and he was born and raised in South Detroit.
Stone Cold Steve Austin here with my next guest on the Broken Skull Sessions, two-time WWE Hall of Famer, Kevin Nash. Kevin, I want you to give me your Mount Rushmore of big men in the business of sports entertainment.
Oh, there's been so many. Andre. Murdoch shot in, look at this backdrop. Like 1 and then 1A would be Giant Gonzalez.
Giant Gonzalez.
The man's 8 feet tall, and he's a monster, a real monster.
Great athleticism from the big man.
Really didn't get the exposure needed, but I gotta go with the Yeti.
Yeti for the 3 spot.
What in the hell is going on? And who is on whose side?
Love the bear hug.
And I'm gonna throw in Master Blaster Steel.
Master Blaster Steel.
Yeah, that was hell of a debut.
We're here not to make friends, we're here to hurt people. Yeah, the Master Blasters, we're here to rule.
I think they lasted 5 days.
A great roster, the best big man, as named by two-time Hall of Famer Kevin Nash. He may have had one already.
You can't tell us. You don't jack us around. Don't jack.
Cephalou63 said, I enjoyed this show. I always thought Nash was arrogant. But getting to see him with his guard down shows that he was working. It's nice to see guys like that.
God forbid.
Mysterio Jr. a chance to catch a second.
For me, I just, pray for him and wish him the best.
You read Eddie's book, he only buries 2 people, Nash and Vamp. That's it.
The quote from the book is, considering how little talent he had in the ring, Nash is one of the most arrogant people I've ever had the displeasure to know. I don't say this lightly, but I genuinely feel that Kevin Nash is evil. And that's Eddie Guerrero's book.
NW, Vanilla Midget, Nash called you that. I mean, I'm sure you've been called a lot worse things than that. But
See, that's the thing, like with stuff off the internet and all that, a lot of people are like, well, such a vanilla midget. I've never heard him say that. He's never came out to me and said that. So it's like, where did you hear it from? All right, I heard it from so-and-so. Well, you better go find out where he heard it from.
You didn't care, though, right, Eddie?
No, I don't care, no.
Welcome to the Nitro Grill. I haven't seen the menu yet, but I hope there's something that has my name or likeness on it somewhere.
Sting, just for your information, there is the Stinger Lima Bean Casserole on the menu. Welcome to the Nitro Grill. Buy the big sexy steak because everybody knows it's the best meat in the house.
You ask, why do I do what I do? Why did I come back? This is my family. I'm standing next to Kevin Nash, for crying out loud. This is my home.
Okay, this is one of my favorite stories of all time. We leave Indianapolis, I think it was, and we used to call them hose vans, a 15-passenger van we used to rent. It's Waltman. I'll go from the back of the van forward. It's Waltman, then Scott and Shawn Michaels, and then Hunter and I in front. And I'm co-piloting, Hunter's driving. We've had probably a case of beer. Paul's completely sober.
Right.
We've had a case of beer. I think there was some Jack Daniels in there, and we've all taken some gimmicks. We've all taken some somas. And everybody's ever seen somebody that the somas, when they take too many somas, you go into the soma shakes.
Right.
So we pull in. It used to be an old Days Inn, but now something else. And they used to have those things called Tasty Worlds or whatever. It was like a restaurant connected to the front of the hotel. So we pull in. As we pull in, we pull to the back side of it, off a side road. So we pull we're almost back towards the kitchen when we park. So we get out and we all finish our beers, and we put the beers on, on the curbs and wherever. We're all laughing. Walk around the corner, which is a blind corner of wood. Walk down the other side, which is blind, and there's the glass opening of the door that sticks out. It's like a little atrium before you go in. We pile in, and when we do, there's probably 20, 25 cops having some kind of a meet and greet at this restaurant. And we all come in like the Bob Seger story with the hair, just, and we do our best. But we're in now. So it's like if we walk out, I mean, we're not going to make it 50 feet. So we get in there, and I tell Hunter, I said, Paul, I said, go out and police the beer, get the beers up. Get the beer that's open, put it in the back of the van, covered up the bags. So he goes back out, and this is like Paul would always wear like slacks and a sport coat. Like he always dressed nice on the road. The rest of us, look like Somalians. So he goes out and comes back, and he said, God, he said there was like 15 beers laying. The kid had one on the car next to us. I mean, it was just like, So we're in there and we order our food, and the cops are just, you can just, they're just glaring at us.
And you think they knew who you guys were, pretty much?
Well, one of them said something, and Scott said, "Hey, Russell," or something like that to the guy. And I'm thinking, oh, God. But slowly, his pills start to kick in. He's closest to the door, so Scott gets him out.
Right.
So he comes back. Kid's in the van. The kid's asleep.
Right.
He's passed out. Scott comes back. So I'm sitting like this, and then Sean's here, the glass window's here, and then Hunter's here, and Scott's here. And we eat our food, and I look over at Sean, and Sean's going into the shakes.
Right.
So he says, "Big man, you're going to have to help me out of here." I'm thinking, oh, man. So about this time, Scott gets up, and Scott bumblefucks through and he bumps into some stuff. He's pretty bad, and I'm not feeling any pain, but I've got the advantage of being the heaviest. So I look at Hunter, and I look at Sean, and Sean's just, it's going to be a rough one. I get him up. I get him about halfway to the door, and I hear one of the cops say, "Fuck that, that's it." And they all get up, and they're going to arrest us all right in this place. They're putting the cuffs on Sean, and I just said, "No, he's epileptic." And they're like, "What?" They said, "He's got two options. Either he goes to the hospital or he goes to jail." I said, "Hospital."
Right.
So,
cool.
Ambulance comes. They put Sean on the gurney, and Sean,
just tell him to sell it.
He was out of it. I mean, he was gone. Because we drank that Jack, man. And by the 30 minutes we were in that thing, that Jack hit everybody's system, man. It was just like, oh. And Hunter's stone sober because he was the wheelman. So they come and they slam the back of the van open, but they're looking with flashlights. There's nothing in there. Kids passed out. They're like, "What's wrong with him? He's just tired." So I said, "I'll travel. I'll go to the hospital with Sean." They took us to, I think we're going to Louisville or someplace that night. We left Indianapolis. Must have been like Louisville. It took us, I think, University of Louisville hospital. So we get there, and Sean's like kicking out of it, but he's still pretty whacked.
Right.
So the doctor's asking him questions like, "What day is it?" And he sounded like a billy goat, and I'm laughing. I'm standing there and I'm laughing. The doctor, like, "What's so funny?" I'm thinking, "Dude, he just took some pills. It's going to kick out in about 35 minutes. Just, don't sweat it." And but this is what's funny is like Hunter just like started traveling with us, and this has like happened like 5 times in 8 nights. That something's happened, and it's like somebody else, like one of us almost OD'd one night, and it's just like he came and picked us up at the hospital, and he's just looking at me like, "You gotta be kidding me! This is how you guys live, night in, night out? Like, you've got to be kidding me! Like, I can't travel with you guys." I'm like, I know,
So
we'll
I
calm it
go
down.
to the airport, and on the same flight as me is Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and John Laurinaitis. So it's pretty cool because a lot of times, a lot of times you see your friends, but you don't really get a chance to see them. So now we're on the same plane together, and we're all sitting up front in the first class area. And I sit down, and Kevin Nash, just by chance, sits next to me. And I've known Kevin for years, but never really had a chance to really hang out with him. It's just one of those things where just two different cliques and circles and stuff. So sitting down and talking, like, he's really funny. He's super funny, fun guy, and we're laughing and having some yeah boys, which he had never had before. And if anyone know what a yeah boy is? I know how to say it, but it's actually a drink. It's Grey Goose on the rocks. And that's my drink. I never drink anything else. If you ever want to buy me a shot, I won't drink it unless it's just a shot of vodka. And the reason for that is you never get hungover if you drink Grey Goose on the rocks. It's a true story. There's no sugar in it, so you never get hungover. So you might want to try it if you guys have hangover problems.
He's got a gun!
Jericho and I were coming back from Portland one night, and I was getting ready for the Magic Mike thing, and we were sitting together. So Jericho says to me, he goes, I said, I'm doing no carbs. He goes, just drink vodka and water. I'm like, oh God, man, vodka and water. It tastes. He says, no, if we put lime in it, we'll be fine. So then he said that we got we got a diet Sprite. I think we actually got a Fresca.
And I
we
love
did-
Fresca.
So we did like a splash of Fresca, water, and so we take off, and Hulk's in the front. He's in like the second row aisle, and Chris and I are probably maybe like third, fourth. We're like probably 2 rows back from Hogan, and I'm in the aisle, and Chris is in the window. And so we go up front. This is back, when you could still, get up and fucking walk around and shit. And so we've talked the flight attendants into go ahead and letting us just kind of sit up there and fucking, start pounding. And we're going through their vodka like it's nobody's business. And everybody's got a buzz. And we just kept, and finally they cut us off and told us we were being too loud and people were complaining, and and you get Hulk laughing. Hulk's a loud fucker, man, So they got us all, in our seats, and then boy, we landed in Atlanta, and Chris was hammered. Everybody was hammered, but Chris was really hammered, and it was just. But I'm just bringing it up because Chris taught me the
vodka water.
the vodka water. But Steve would drink. Austin would always drink vodka water.
Thank God for the legitimization of THC. Bunch of wrestlers on a plane with a teaspoon of nano infused THC versus a copious amount of vodka or beer. Who would you rather be with?
I'd much rather be with. I've always said that was. If we could have had, but then again, when we were all going up and down the road and eating handful of pills and drinking booze, we'd always, man, if it give us our smoke back, we wouldn't do any of this shit. And then all those restrictions on the smoke kind of went away. Especially during the NWO days, we weren't drug tested, and we just added that to the arsenal. Kid used to travel with a mason jar full of buds. I mean, we used to call him the king of pot.
That was the thing. You used to, if you tapped out, you had to call him king of pot. I know he used to do that with the Mexican guys. They would sit in the circle.
Oh yeah, Kid was the king of pot.
If they could tap out by telling him he was the king of pot.
No, I just wanted to say that somebody said that I was irresponsible because I did a tablespoon, and I said that I did a tablespoon. So, in a teaspoon, it's about 14 milligrams of THC. That's about what so. But I also stated last week that, like anything, before you, if you're going to indulge in anything in life that's going to alter you, do it at home. Be smart. The thing is, it's not like a. See, to me, like one of the things about gummies, you do a 30 milligram gummy, and you wait a half hour, and you're like, "Is this thing ever going to kick in?" You do another one, and then you're baked Alaska.
No. Yeah.
Where this is about a 15-minute, you kind of know where you're at. You can gauge it.
Right.
But my answer to this guy that I typed back was, if I was to say that when I get out on the interstate, that I set my cruise at 78, I wouldn't expect somebody that's never driven before to get in a car, go out on the interstate, and set the cruise on 78. It's
Correct.
like, it's just, that's common sense. So if you're that much of an idiot where you're just going to, if I tell you to drink, like, and I think Joey Diaz he ate a 300 milligram cookie on Rogan. I mean, if I ate a 300 milligram cookie, I would die.
Some of his podcast, not Rogan's, but Joey's podcast, he had some people get so fucked up, and he puts them out there on. They have to like leave. One girl had to lay down for a while, and there was one unreleased one that he finally put out with Pauly Shore, who is so battered. Joey used to put out what he called stars of death. They were inedible. I don't know what percentage though. He said
that's what he took one of those on this thing. It's 600 milligrams.
That was, oh my God. He would eat a point sometimes. He said some of these people would sit there and they pop the whole fucking gummy. And if you want to become uncomfortable watching someone so uncomfortable they can barely talk, find the Pauly Shore appearance.
Oh, that's a horrible feeling when but the thing with the nano is that it's you can always dose up. You can always dose up.
Right.
Like me, the last time we did one of these, I think I did it like a tablespoon. But I also did a tablespoon like 2.5 hours before we went on the show. I had food in my stomach, and I weigh 300 fucking pounds.
Yes.
Wait a minute! There was a dunk! That's a net king! Nash and Hall as Austin approached. He put netting and capturing Kevin Nash.
November of 2004, he would debut for TNA Wrestling. Nash found a home in TNA for quite a bit, and while he never worked anything close to what would be considered a full-time schedule, Nash spent a good 7 years working for Dixie Carter in TNA Wrestling, and Nash was a big part of many stables like the Main Event Mafia. Nash still appears for WWE to this day, as he is virtually a family member of Paul Levesque. Nash was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame once in 2015 as a singles competitor, and then again as a member of the NWO in 2021.
Opponent of heat between Nash and Eddie. In all my years of being a mark, I've never heard of that they ever had an issue. Even read that Eddie was supposed to join the NWO in 2002 and Nash 2002. How's that possible?
Well, the NWO came back in WWE, remember?
Oh, and Nash not torn his quad and started a feud with the babyface Benoit. So, Conan, can you tell us more about the heat they had? P.S. Joe, can you book Cornette on this show? I don't know if he's been on before, but for holy crap, would that be incredible content? I don't know anything about the Eddie Nash heat. Conan, do you got any insight on this?
No, I just think that Eddie and I don't think I know that Eddie and Dean and Chris and the guys that they refer to as vanilla midgets, which Eddie was one of them. They didn't appreciate that terminology or the way sometimes they were treated by them because they kind of looked down to him a little bit. And there was always heat about that. And I spoke to Nash about it, I spoke to Eddie about it. And and was there anything else?
Well, Nash has said in an interview that wrestling died when Benoit and Guerrero became world champions in 2004. So that was, I don't know if he was
that's Nash finally maturing and understanding the great talents they were. Because when he was there at the time, and we got into arguments about this because they were my boys, and I knew how talented they were, and so that's where the heat. And if you read his book,
Peter D says, "Can Kev take us through his mobile phone contact list and tell us the name of wrestling people he has on it?" Probably have everybody on there, don't you?
Yeah. Let's see here. I'll just go real. I'll just go through a couple that are on my, because the people that I talk to, even though they may not, I got Scott Dallas, HBK, Paul, Sean, Stone Cold, Hulk, Sting. Do I have his real name? Ric Flair. And as I touch it, I mean Raven, Conan, Disco. I mean, I've got everybody.
Okay.
This is one thing I want to say, and through all this, Conan and I had kind of a rocky, little patch, and we ended up not, kind of lost contact and lost our friendship. And he reached out when T passed, and I reached out to him, and we talked for a couple hours, and so.
And he proved himself compassionate, and
Yeah, it was cool. He was. I think we both realized why we were such great friends in the first place. And we just let, stupid business,
yeah.
So,
okay. He didn't bring up the $500 that he owes me, did he? In the discussion.
I'll pay you it.
Yes. No. It's not principle.
No, it's just I don't want to. I want that this would be cool. I want him to feel that he's welcome here.
Okay. Well, it was certainly nice that he did reach out and offer his condolences. You guys patched up whatever issues you had. I've heard I did hear him talk on the show in the past about you in a fond way before your discussion. This is like months ago or maybe weeks ago, but he did speak of you fondly. So for what it's worth,
you know what? It's like how many times you drive from like Amarillo to Midland, Texas, and two guys really don't know each other that well, but we're in the Wolfpack together now. We're driving. We're in a Cadillac, just me and him. We stopped and it's some like diner, type thing, and they had some Tex-Mex, and I think we had ribs. So we're getting in the car, and we said, back when you were young, anybody on earth that you could pick for a woman who was the hottest. And we both looked at each other and said at the exact same time, Raquel Welch. And I was just like, I said, all right. I said, that alone was just, that speaks volumes.
A fine choice, though, too.
Mm-hmm.
Take this toilet lid size hand and smack the taste out of your mouth.
Can I ask you a question?
The guys that I've been watching every week in WWE are going to be on TV at that time, so maybe I'll stay home. Yeah.
Yeah, so I never saw Southern wrestling until I moved to Atlanta, which was in maybe, I don't know when that was, 85, maybe 86. I didn't know that there was, I saw Big Time Wrestling, and it was the WWF. Like I saw Big Time when I was a kid. Then I went down, and Joe Pedicino had this like 6-hour block of wrestling that would be on Saturday nights. I mean, it had Georgia Championship. It had, Memphis. It had everything. I think it had Superstars, but then it had, oh, fuck, the Saturday night WCW show.
The 605 from
Yeah.
the Carolinas? From
Yeah.
no, from Atlanta, from the TV
Atlanta.
studio in Atlanta.
The TBS show. Yeah. So that was like the first time, like when people would talk about Dusty, and this is no disrespect because I just, I wasn't I was watching basketball. People, when I got into the business and they'd be like, this is Dusty, I'd be like, oh yeah, he's that guy that had polka dots on his outfit. I had no idea about
So the Dusty image you had in your head was the Vince Dusty,
Yeah.
the WWE Dusty.
And then he was like, I'm like, how has this guy got so much stroke? So then it took me a while, and I was just like, and then I, because back then you could get VHS tapes, and I'm just like, oh, like not only is this guy like super over, but he's like charismatic, like he was like so much. I mean, he was great. I mean, you can't take anything away from Dusty.
No, Dusty might be on the, people always ask who's on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling. And, Dusty might have to be up there because he had the in-ring, right? He could keep an audience hot, and the goddamn camera loved him. He was just such a natural performer. He had a mind for the business. He was a booker too. I mean, he was the all-around, one of the all-around greats.
I remember when they put Dusty with me and Scott for a pay-per-view, and he came down to the ring, and this is before he turned, and he came down with that John Wayne strut down that ramp, and I was just like, man, look at this, it's like this motherfucker, man, and he stole it. I mean, he knew how to steal it, and he did every chance he got, he did. So, yeah.
Yeah. He was. How often did you work with Dusty?
I mean, I broke in when Dusty was, I broke in. Dusty was around during that time frame at the beginning, and then I went off in '93. And then I came back, and Dusty was working with WCW when I came back with the NWO.
So, and Dusty defeats Arn, Barbarian, Ivan Koloff, Lex Luger, Road Warrior Animal, Tully Blanchard, and the Warlord in what was the bunkhouse steel cage match. Instead of the top rope, elimination comes by throwing an opponent out the door or hoisting them 20 feet in the air and throwing them over the top of the cage.
Some of the action at the end when it's just down to Barb and Dusty is, I think the only thing I can say is when the Linda guy walked between the Twin Towers, like that kind of like, I mean, just the peril of it is just, I mean, just go ahead and hang, like Barb, you hang as far as you can. I'm going to reach over and give you some, and I mean, I'm going to stretch to give you a couple of elbows, and you're going to fall about that far.
With no leverage, really, right? Because you can't,
but I mean, you're going to fall to your demise.
Right.
I mean, it's just, I think that there was 12,000 people there. I think that halfway through that match, 6,000 ran for the exits.
After they demanded refunds, the count was down to 6.
Yeah.
You've done battle royals. I'm always fascinated by in what seems to be chaos. There has to be the pre-planned discussion of who's going out when, by whom, and about at what time. Right? This isn't all called in the ring.
No.
So is there like a listen, you get 20, in this case it was only a handful, but in a regular battle royal you might have 20 guys in the ring.
You might have 30 in a row rumble.
Not all very organized in their thought process and how to pull off this match. Is there anybody who's kind of calling something, like one kind of ring general who's making sure it's going
in that small, in that kind of a that bunkhouse thing? There were so few people in it. There's so few moving parts. It's kind of like,
yeah, that was just like a 6-man
Yeah.
tag, basically. It
Yeah.
could have been worked out. But I was looking like 20 guys. Like, does SD Jones know when he's supposed to?
The greatest thing of all time is, and they used to do this all the time, especially when I broke in, where they would get the green guy and like somebody like Bobby Eaton would call a spot, like a tackle drop down spot, and Bobby would send me off, and Bobby do like a spot like in the middle of the ring, but everybody was smart to it except the green guy. And everybody, so Bobby does this spot, and everybody's like, "Oh, geez, like you don't do spots." Like, as soon as the bell rings, all the big guys hunker their asses down on the second turnbuckle. I mean, it's like it's if there's anything, this is the worst thing on earth. Used to be this. We used to do this sometimes at WWE when my first run is. You would have a battle royal would start the night, and then you would wrestle who you went, like, so if you were the first guy out, you would wrestle the next guy out. So that way, like the last two guys in the battle royal, you would dump that guy and then come back and have a match against him.
Right? Andrew Dice Clay at that time was pretty hot. Kevin was sort of a wrestling version of Andrew Dice Clay.
Now, when Ric Flair left for WWF and took the belt with him, did you take it personal since it was clearly a shot at trying to put the company out of business by him, or did it not bother you because you were just there, just earning your paycheck?
I remember thinking, like, because they kind of Flair, they kind of get me out.
Right.
So to me, it's just like, I always liked Rick. Rick was always a gentleman. Rick was, Rick always would pick up drinks for guys that didn't have cash. Like Rick was, he was one of those guys that didn't put his nose down to the greenhorns. And I thought it was, by that time we were all the rebels anyway. We were all anti-company. So anything that they, it was almost like he was like William Wallace.
Right. It was like for the boys.
Yeah. Way to go, Rick.
Now, is it true that you knew you were going to WWF a year before you had gone?
No, about 5 or 6 months. I was under contract, and they, and I just took a trip with Barry Windham. Barry and I were pretty good friends, and he was like definitely in the political clique of WCW.
How did you 100? What was the backstage reaction, your own reactions to Rey Mysterio defeating Kevin Nash on the February 22nd, 1999 episode of WCW Monday Nitro? Conan will attest to this too, and Kevin was not quiet about this. He was kind of very outspoken. He did the job. He did the job to Rey Mysterio when he became the booker, because he wanted to let everybody know it's like, okay, everybody can do jobs. And here to show them like everybody can do jobs, I'm going to go out here and do a job for Rey Mysterio. Do you remember this, Conan?
I remember that being part of it, but I think there was another part which was I wasn't too down with.
All right, which was what?
Is this when Ray was this right?
Yeah. Ray beat Kevin. This is when Ray beat Kevin.
But then the following month he lost his mask.
Right. So this was all done. Okay, we all go. I want to check and do a job. This was all done to give Ray credibility before he would lose his mask. So I was hating it all the way through.
Oh, because he was going to lose his mask.
Yeah, because I knew it was, people, it was cool if the guy said he was 7 years old. Yeah, little guy beating big guys. But that was just done to try to help, and it didn't, I thought.
Right.
Everybody knew what was going to happen. Plus, the most ridiculous stipulation that I've ever heard of. Yeah, why am I in a match with Scott Hall when it should have been just Kevin and Ray? What were we doing in that match? And number two, if Kevin lost, he didn't even lose his hair, would be Miss Elizabeth. So just to the whole premise was just brutal.
Him losing his mask, it didn't change anything. It didn't elevate Ray up the card or anything like that. He stayed in the same spot he'd always been in.
Like, God, man, like, it's like the whole vanilla midgets thing. Like, you can only get away with that if you're a 7-foot guy. So you say it, and then of course nobody else. Like, what you basically saying is, I'm playing the heel right now, and I'm going to go and basically take the average male that's 5'9" and say that that's just genetically just sewer water.
Yeah.
And then what? So how many? So everybody 6'6" and above is going to be like, yeah, I see where Nash is coming from. all 11 people.
All right. Let's talk about this this issue of steroids and roid rage. Is your understanding that is this an issue, and have you seen this as a pattern among professional wrestlers?
I've never myself witnessed roid rage. I know that there's steroid use in professional wrestling. There's steroid use in most athletics. I guess that's just not sexy enough for the media. Here's a person that has had a DUI, who has had problems with alcohol before, and if you look in your federal penitentiaries, I'm sure there's a lot more people causing violent crime on alcohol than on steroids.
The focus is because 60 wrestlers under 45 have died in the last 10 years. 104 have died under the age of 50. There's a pattern of steroid and drug use among...
And he was injecting steroids into the son. Steroids are not taken intravenously. They're taken intramuscularly or underneath and the growth is taken in the fat. So there's so much misinformation in general out there. I mean, steroids, if abused, are horrible, but when you're in your 40s and 50s, they're starting to find that there are some therapeutic properties as far as when men start to lose their natural testosterone levels. They call it andropause. And they're starting to find out that actually the testosterone, when taken, actually stops the fat cell at the actual stem cell itself. So there are some therapeutic and reasons to look into.
Mr. Nash, this is Karen Hanratty. I think we can all agree that he wasn't taking steroids for any sort of therapeutic purposes, and there is a lot of steroid use in wrestling.
I disagree with you. I disagree.
He was taking it for therapeutic purposes.
You don't know that. You don't know. He might have had absolutely.
You're right. I don't know that, but I think we can pretty much take that off the table. We all know there's a lot of steroid use in wrestling industry.
Hold on a second. Yes, there is, but you're misinformed. If he had taken anabolic steroids for a long time, his testosterone would have shut down from his testes. That means that he would have had no sexual drive, no libido. A doctor would give you testosterone in order for you to increase your libido because your testes are not working.
Let me ask you a basic question about the industry. Do you think that wrestling is a legitimate sport along the lines of baseball?
Absolutely not. It's entertainment.
So there should, so because the baseball players have had to go before and testify before Congress, do you think that the wrestling pros and that the association should be required to testify before Congress if there's some sort of legislation that they bring up, that you're any sort of example to these high school and college kids who are out there? Do you have any responsibility to actually follow the law, or should we just let your industry off the hook because you're, as you call it, merely entertainment?
No, I think that if you break the law, you break the law. It doesn't matter where you are. The thing is there's no toxology. The toxology has not came out yet. All this is speculation. There were steroids found in the house, yes. But until Chris's levels come back, along with everything else, I mean, I just think it's so sexy and it's such a media craze that steroids were involved. Steroids were involved. You know what? Until this comes back and it's shown that his levels are above 4-1, then I think.
And what if they are shown above 4-1? I mean, as you sit here and deny that you've ever seen any sort of kind of roid rage, which also seems to kind of stretch credibility. But what if, in fact, that it does come back?
Have you ever taken steroids?
That it was because of steroids. Then
I'm
what?
asking you, have you ever taken steroids?
No, I have not taken steroids.
And she can prove it because I don't think you get that muscular thing. Thank you very much, Kevin, for being with us.
I'm just saying, you're doubting my credibility. I've taken them and I haven't seen it.
All right, so we thank you very
much.
I
know that's not what you want to hear.
Charlie.
This week's Stiff One, Kevin, takes us to Hannity and Combs. Do you remember being on this show?
Oh, what a fucking... These
Chris Benoit?
These motherfuckers They put me behind a fucking barbecue shack on Atlantic Avenue with a monitor smaller than I'm looking at right now, and I couldn't hear, I couldn't see anything. It was, you talking about bushwhacked?
Yeah, she gets a little cunty with you at the end.
Because I wouldn't.
She wanted you to attribute the murder to steroids.
Right. Yeah.
And
because,
anything less than that, they weren't going to accept that. You were saying, we have to wait for toxicology. I've done steroids. I've never murdered anyone. But they were not having that. They wanted to get their results. So here's a clip from the Hannity and Combs show with Kev regarding the Chris Benoit.
If I'm not mistaken, neither one of them are. And I got some fucking ham and egger that spent all day at fucking makeup and didn't do any research.
No, you're right. It wasn't Sean Hannity. It was
he was
replacements, but
he was hanging out with a pillow guy way before his time.
Let me ask you a basic question about the industry. Do you think that wrestling is a legitimate sport along the lines of baseball?
Absolutely not. It's entertainment.
So there should, so because the baseball players have had to go before and testify before Congress, do you think that wrestling, the wrestling pros, and that the association should be required to testify before Congress if there's some sort of legislation that they bring up, that you're any sort of example to these high school and college kids who are out there? Do you have any responsibility to actually follow the law, or should we just let your industry off the hook because you're, as you call it, merely entertainment?
No, I think that if you break the law, you break the law. It doesn't matter where you are. The thing is there's no toxology. The toxology has not came out yet. All this is speculation. There were steroids found in the house, yes. But until Chris's levels come back, along with everything else, I mean, I just think it's so sexy and it's such a media craze that steroids were involved. Steroids were involved. You know what? Until this comes back and it's shown that his levels are above 4-1, then I think.
And what if they are shown above 4-1? I mean, as you sit here and deny that you've ever seen any sort of kind of roid rage, which also seems to kind of stretch credibility. But what if, in fact, that it does come back?
Have you ever taken steroids?
That it was because of steroids. Then
I'm
what?
asking you, have you ever taken steroids?
No, I have not taken steroids.
And she can prove it because I don't think you get that muscular thing. Thank you very much, Kevin, for being with us.
I'm just saying, you're doubting my credibility. I've taken them and I haven't seen it.
All right, so we thank you very much.
I know that's not what you want to hear.
Charlie Daniels coming up next.
You were followed by Charlie Daniels, in case you're wondering.
Who's a fucking juicer? I mean, that guy was, God rest his soul, but I bought my first fucking cycle of Trend from him.
That's how we rocked that fiddle so hard.
Yeah.
So
you know what? They always say I have CTE, and I was calling, I didn't say toxicology correctly. So obviously my CTE is
toxology, right?
Yeah.
So were you contacted by them ever again? Did you go back on?
Fuck no, that bitch, man. I can't prove it, but I think she was speed diddling while I was fucking talking to her.
Well, she did have that little giggle, that snarky giggle, which I think stretches your credibility a little bit.
You're kind of aggressive. Hey, let me ask you a question, sweetheart. These fucking actors, right? They fucking show up in these movies with a fucking 8-pack and fucking put on 30 pounds for a fucking role. What do you think they do? Huh? Do you think that's creatine, you fucking stupid bitch?
There you go.
I got one thing to say to her.
There we go. The parts are going to come flooding in if you can isolate that and put that on your reel.
If they do fucking Legends of the Fall 2, I'm in.
I'm tired of being pushed around by Kevin Nash.
The other big one is when Kevin Nash throws you like a lawn dart.
I just recently saw that last week, yeah.
He throws you like you weigh 30 pounds.
That's crazy. I was probably like $130 back then. This was WCW, right? The
WCW, yeah.
Yeah, that was the night I became Cruiserweight champion against Dean.
What a night.
Wow. I still remember the moonsault I did, and Dean was, I believe, on one side, and I jumped to the other, and I landed nobody there.
I don't know if you guys saw this online today. So last night in Belfast, we were talking about
winning the belt at WrestleMania 12, and from that you were talking about the Clique and stuff, and you had mentioned that you'd been offered to be the head of the Clique. That was something that had happened, and somebody tweeted out about it. They tagged Kevin, and Kevin tweeted back and said, "That's not true. He's trolling you. It never happened." So I just wanted to kind of give you a chance to respond.
You should also mention that Kevin said that I said the Montreal Screwjob was a work.
Yeah,
it was all planned out. Well, it's page 360 of my book. At the very top, I have the whole thing written in there, and it for sure happened. And it was Scott Hall, Shawn Michaels, and Kevin Nash that approached me in Germany about being the head of the Clique, and that we would all take control of the top matches, and we would decide who worked with who, and we would take control of the whole company and start, like Triple H would wrestle Shawn, and 1-2-3 Kid would wrestle. I remember Shawn telling me he would wrestle 1-2-3 Kid and Triple H and Razor Ramon. He was all they were going to do was work with their friends. They're going to leave out everybody else in the dressing room, from Owen to Savio Vega and anyone else that deserved from Lex Luger to whoever you can think of, that they would all get bypassed over, and it would be just Shawn's friends and Kevin's friends, and 1-2-3 Kid would wrestle Shawn for the belt, and they'd control all the belts, and they'd control who makes the money and who gets paid. And I remember going, I don't want to be part of anything like that. That's not fair to the other wrestlers. And I said, everybody has a chance. If you're good enough to beat me, if someone's good enough to be the champion, then he'll be the champion because he's good enough. And it's, in a sense, wrestling is real that way. If you're really over, you're going to become champion. And I didn't see anybody really being over and as a threat to me, including Shawn. I was like, there's nobody that's going to take my job or take the belt from me just yet. And I didn't want to be part of any clique that controls who gets pushed and who makes money and who doesn't. And I still don't think it was fair. And what I said last night in Belfast is absolutely true. And Kevin Nash can go to hell. I'll just say this. I can tell them what day it happened. I can tell them what time it happened. And I can tell them who was there when they said it to me.
What was the drug use like back then at that time period? Because I know the road schedule was crazy and all that.
Couldn't smoke dope. Okay. So you take that out of the equation. It's just like, so the only thing you can do is you can take pills and you can drink booze.
Right.
If you're one of the top guys, I mean, most guys drink beer. Most guys don't drink liquor. So you can't be, bloated toad and drink, by this time, it takes 20 beers to get a buzz. So, it's like, well, I got to work every night, so I can't be a bloated toad with a big fat beer gut. So it's like, you take pills,
right,
and just kick them in with 4 or 5 beers, and I'd never taken a pharmaceutical drug in my life before I got into bodybuilding. I mean, until I got in the wrestling industry.
What was your, drug of choice, if you want to talk about it?
Well, I had to, I was in that Soma era,
Everybody, yeah.
Somas were very popular, muscle relaxers. They just, they whack you. Sometimes one night you take 3 as your opening volley and it would do nothing. Other nights you take 3 and it'd be like, it was just, and we had all these different theories where carbohydrates kicked them in, and pizza right after it, and bang, we had all these theories of what made Somas work. And, we'd get the Mexican bootleg ones, and those were horrible, and so we get some script ones and 2 of those, and you take 12 of this, it's amazing that, your heart's a muscle. You're eating, 25 muscle relaxers a night.
Right.
Drinking 20 beers. You say you're not going to drink, but once you get all whacked, you just, you drink. But then Xanax were another one. The 2 milligram Xanax were a popular amongst my running mates and myself. But when I first broke in, we had Placibills, the greenies, the 750s. We had Placibills.
And one time, Kid brought phenobarbital on a European trip, like a big vat of them. It was just like a bunch of monkeys in a room. Like, what do phenobarbital do? They're barbiturate.
Huh.
I got caffeine in them. That can't be that bad. We can take, what, 3? I'll take 3 before we wrestle.
Oh.
You know, so it was, but it was such a, it was like you were like a family, you know? It was like almost like a paternity, like a frat, you know? Even guys you didn't like you go out to a bar and the guys that you didn't particularly, and I'm not saying you didn't like them because there wasn't anybody that, I never, all the time I've been in this business, there's never been a guy that I can say, boy, I really just don't like him or I hate him or,
right.
You know, I mean, there's been a lot of guys I'm sure that have said that about me, but I never had that, you know, like any malice towards anybody or anything like that.
But how do you respond when people say that you beat Goldberg too early?
I wasn't booking when Goldberg got beat.
So that wasn't even your...
That's the one thing that I love, you know. It's like, you know, I took over like in February. I beat Goldberg in December. You know?
Right.
I beat him in December. I started booking like February the 13th or 16th or something like that. It's just like, oh, Nash starts I wasn't even booking. You know?
So the timetables were pretty much all messed up.
Worked for Bill. When Bill tells his story, I was booking.
Right.
You know? But this is the thing that people say, well, yeah, well, you beat Goldberg. I don't know, man. I was at the building every night when they were chanting Goldberg sucks. You know?
Right.
I'm like thinking, okay, so he's your top baby face. I never heard him chant Austin sucks. You know? He's your top baby face. He's undefeated. He's now the New York Yankees.
So you felt it was time to.
And it wasn't like I went out there and had a babyface, beat him clean match.
Right.
We ran in more shit, did more to fucking protect him besides have Oswald shoot him from the book depository.
Right. And
then fucking and I did it for, and then I turn around and give the belt away. 4 days later, 5 days later, yeah, because I wanted the run with the strap and I wanted the merchandise. I look like the biggest douchebag of all.
It's funny though.
You know, I mean, how did that get me over? Explain how that gets me over.
Right.
I suffer way worse than Bill does.
That's my next question actually coming up. So, in retrospect, do you think that the one finger finish with Hogan was a good idea?
Would have been if Bill wouldn't have fucking put his hand through a limo a couple weeks later because he got all pissed off because Scott said something on TV. And he would have done it. He would have mowed through all of us to finally get to Hogan, beat Hogan, get the strap, get another run. You know, we had 7 months of television planned right there, and he lost his head and put his fist through a window.
A lot of people say people like yourself and Scott gave Bill Goldberg bad advice when he came to WCW. How do you respond to that?
We gave him bad advice. We gave him our agent. He went from making $75,000 to about $3 million a year. If that's bad advice, God, give me some.
All right. Were you surprised when Brett showed up?
No.
Okay.
No. We had a favored nations. We were so glad he asked for $3 million. We were making 1.3. We had a favored nations in our contract. We were like, sure, bring Brett in.
So you got
Yeah, we'll take more money.
People said that you and Scott tried to play politics with him behind the scenes and tried to hold him back. Is that true at all? Or
no, I didn't even work with him. I don't think I did one angle with Brett, but I think Brett was with me for a while, and we redid the NWO, and Brett was in it.
Right, I do remember that. Whose idea was it for the, one finger finish?
We all just kind of threw it around.
Did you think it was good for business, or?
Well, it put us where we needed to. You know.
Right.
I mean, to me, I went from kind of, wow, I got this win over Goldberg, and I'm like soul searching. I find out that it wasn't a clean win. Geez, how can I make this right? I'll wrestle Bill again. Bill gets arrested because of something he does with Elizabeth. I know you're behind it, Hogan. This whole big crowd in the Georgia Dome thinks you're going to see this battle. I'm going to beat Hogan's ass, and I lay down. People got pissed, are still pissed about that because it worked. It worked because they're pissed. They're fucking pissed. It's like, fuck, you got me, and I hate you for it. It wasn't because what they wanted to see the Nash Hogan battle. Well, that would have been a barn burner.
How do you respond to Eric Bischoff in his book? He calls you Big Lazy. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, he can say whatever he wants to say.
Do you know why he feels like that?
I think I had lost my desire, to perform at that level. I did. I mean, it's not like it wasn't justified, but at the same token, it's like anything else. Wasn't too many guys in that hierarchy working harder than I was.
Are you guys surprised that Goldberg speaks negatively about you guys? And he said that you guys tried to sabotage him.
No, he's a mark. I'm not surprised.
I was going to ask Scott. You actually said that Goldberg was a mark, and I was going to ask you if you
never got it. See, I like Bill as a human being. I like him personally outside the ring. He was a mark. He's one of these guys that just like, I would have been over if 20 years during my career I would have never got beat. What the fuck? I mean, what kind of mentality
I think
is
I
that?
said on the other interview, his first road trip was Roanoke, Virginia. He's standing at the baggage carousel like a lost puppy. I've been on the road a lot of years. I go from, hey man, who you riding with? Oh, nobody. I said, look bro, I get free cars, free rooms. Come with me if you want. I know where the gym is, I know where the restaurants are, I know where the building is. Make this look.
Did you do the radio thing too?
Yeah, he didn't stop. It's hard the bald head.
You gotta put rosin on your palm.
And then because he wasn't Goldberg then, and then when he started to get successful in his early contracting was coming to an end, I introduced him to Barry Bloom, who negotiated a hell of a deal for Bill, and he ended up becoming a very wealthy man. So why he would have heat with me?
Yeah, every time you sit in your Barracudas and all that shit, just realize who bought those.
I don't know, but I have heat with everybody. So
Exactly.
I'm not worried about it.
To me, he's passionate. He's got a personality. He's an alpha male. It's just like, I mean, if you're not he or I, 9 times out of 10, you ask 100 people in a room, do you like those two? They'll be like, no, I don't like them.
You want to work with them?
I'll work with them.
They'll make you look great.
But I don't like them.
How would you guys have booked WCW Invasion angle different than Vince did?
When we came back?
Not when you came back, when he bought WCW and a lot of the guys entered the company.
Wait till fucking have WCW, have the guys besides having just Booker T and Dallas.
Shane McMahon called me then. I had called him to thank him for. Was that when the kid went to rehab or something? I don't know. I called Shane or something. I said, hey, thanks for taking care of my buddy and all that. And he said, well, actually, Paul did that. I was out of his own pocket. And I said, well, anyway, thank you. He's like a little brother to me. I just want to thank you very much. He said, well, hey, you're going to Japan. I said, yeah, I just want to find out if I even want to work anymore. He goes, well, you always got a place here. Of course, we might have to, put you on that good boy clause. So I went, well, I'll talk to you when I get back. I came back, I had a great tour in Japan. They offered me a contract the second day. And I went, you can't afford me, can you? I fired a kid. I'm leaning against the door so no one kicks the door in. Or was it Philly or was it something? I don't know where it was. I walk in, you're out in the arena. Walk in, hear about kid, yeah, I heard it. We out here? Yeah. We got a place to go? Already talked to Vince. Where's Bischoff? Let's go. So we go, he's signing on the thing, Eric. Kev kicks the door open, Bischoff's behind the desk back there. Kev walks in, he's real dramatic too. Taking his watch off, putting it in his pocket. Bischoff's behind the desk, he's looking at me like, you're the only one who can calm him down, right? And I'm looking at him going, hey man, fuck you, you're on your own. I'm leaning against the door so no one can come in. Not like anybody would have helped Bischoff anyway.
No, he had so much heat with everybody.
Motherfucker, fire our food once you fire us too, motherfucker. He dodged, he was in big hand. You guys aren't going anywhere. You aren't going anywhere. That was the downfall. But then ratings shifted that. Kid was on Raw the next week.
Yeah.
And we acted like babies the rest of the time.
And we took our ball and went home.
Taylor was an agent then.
But it was great because we were hot, and they went. A kid went over there, and then they showed up like Norfolk and said, "Give us our guys, baby. You got Nash and Hall hostage." So they actually, so actually, they were smart. That was some pretty creative booking.
Right. Like he talks about kicking the door and rah. Once he found out that worked, he wasn't afraid to use that. And see, a lot of times I wasn't sure, and I know if it was a shoot or not. So he is a good actor though, but he just, fuck, this place sucks.
I can go from 0 to 100 pretty fast. I mean, I'm still, I got a volatile temper. So it's like, but I learned like early in life, you know, if you have a conversation with somebody, it's beginning to become a little bit of an argument. If I take a mini step into their personal space, 9 times out of 10, all of a sudden I start to, it's a physical advantage you have, and you realize, I see my son already, you know, because he's so much bigger than the kids he's around. I see him use that. I mean, it's just something that's
Cody's 6'7".
I know, it's hard. Fuck, he's a big spoon.
I observed Kev, you know, I've been around in New York, and then when we got to WCW, it's a little bit different because in New York, there was guys who knew more than you or had ideas. Like Pat Patterson helped the way our clique thought about business. I think Pat's a genius.
I do too.
And when we got to WCW, there were some smart guys there, and there were some guys in powerful position who weren't wrestling guys. And so a lot of times we'd be standing around in Hulk's locker room trying to figure out what we're going to do in our segment. Hulk had creative control in his contract over his character.
Right.
Of course, Bischoff is the boss. And then the rest of us are going to, I'm one of them guys, I gotta say what I think anyway. You know, I care about wrestling. So I used to use the same tired line.
I need the
job. You know, you're my boss, I'll do whatever you want. I'm going to start by clarifying that statement because I need this high-paying job. But if it was up to me, and it's not, I think we should do this.
Or you do the one, I used to like the one you always do, you go, we can do that, and it'll probably fucking suck. But if you really want it to work, then immediately it's just like, you're not saying the idea is completely bad. Like, we'll do it, it'll suck. But what if, bad or no bad? Bad or no bad?
I remember one time when Terry Shadow came up to me and said, well, why don't we just do the old thing? And I said, I hate it already, if it's the old thing. That was one thing that was our standard early in the NWO was, we didn't do anything, if it had already been done, no. That was no.
Somebody pitched an idea like, remember in Luton? Nah, fuck, I don't want to do some Watts did. You know, no, I don't want to do that.
Bischoff has questioned whether he gave Kevin too much power. What are your thoughts on that?
Too fucking late.
I
take it. I thought you don't give me.
Kev sees his power.
Yeah,
I never finished my statement earlier. When he goes into his grouch mode, you know, we used to call him Grouch. Pretty soon, everybody's calling him Grouch. Where's the Grouch? You know, and it was like, big guys crack sooner. You know, if Kev's 7 feet tall, even in first class on an airplane, it's uncomfortable. He can ride in a Cadillac. The luxury cars were in our contract. It's still too small. You know, he goes to the whole king size bed, too small. You know, it just wear and tear being a 7-footer walking around. And plus, what I always thought was cool observing it from like, you know, standing right next to him, go, well, he is right, you know, because Bishop would always go to me like, well, you're the little crazy one, but you're kind of unstable, but fuck, he's mean, you know. And Kevin, you know, he's big, he's tall, he's big, he's articulate, you know, and educated. And I used to just watch, like when we'd be trying to turn the finish like the way we wanted it to go in the room, you know, they're talking to finish. And I go, well, it's not up to me, blah, 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 blah. And I would say, and then Kevin would go, well, I think that's a good idea. Now you got him talking down to everybody. All you need is one more person to jump in there. And if Hulk goes, well, I think we should do that too. Done. We got you. Because Hulk's right. Hulk has struggled.
Creative. You know, if you can get him, you can sway Hulk.
And once we gained his trust, you know,
then we made it. But then it's like anything else. It's like, fuck, you know, if you're in prison or
once we gained his trust, we stuck it to him.
No, anywhere you're at in life, man, it's just the strong are always going to survive. I mean, that's just what it is.
They're self-destruct.
Right. But I mean, you know, there's boom, boom. But I don't think, I mean, he didn't give me power.
No, you seized it. You were, Yeah, and I thought you handled it real smoothly the way when you had your meeting, you said, well, I've been messing with Eric for a long time now, saying I could do better, I could do better, I could do better. Well, now I'm gonna have to back up what I said. So I think the first week, just to show that you're a businessman, didn't Ray beat you on the first Nitro? Just so you could set the standard. Like, when I come to you and tell you to do a job, I don't want to hear anything about it. I used to do jobs when I wasn't supposed to on Nitro. I come back and they go, Bishop would see me in the locker room and go, didn't I tell you to beat Jericho?
Plus, we're in a situation where, if you're giving reins to one of the boys.
Oh, forget about it! He's WCW for life! He's outman too! Look at that! Do it anyway! He's gonna do it! No, he's not! It's the Giant! 7 feet 4! 500 pounds! Against Kevin Nash! He's gonna powerbomb him! Do it! He's gonna put him up!
Kevin Nash is off the committee as well. What did you think of Kevin's ideas in WCW? Did you work with him creatively at all?
But, me and Kevin met each other in 93, 94. So Kevin's he's a lifer at this point, but he dove in and incredibly interesting backstory, kid from Detroit, played pro ball in Germany, military, all kind of different jobs, life experiences. But Kevin dove into the business and learned from Rick Rude and Dusty and that WCW, and then, just Kevin's whole demeanor and mindset is he knows how to make money. And so he would be thinking. So Kevin, look, creative is something that is subjective. So yeah, were all of Kevin's ideas great? No. Were all of them bad? No. But Kevin wasn't afraid to get outside the box. That's one of the things that, he would say, hey, what if? No, I like Kevin.
Nitro Girls Swimsuit Expo Day.
I'll with this set of tapings. Kevin Nash is upset too. It's written, Nash walked out of the tapings as well. He has a creative control deal where he has to approve of whatever they book for him in his contract. He was booked on the July 29th show, which would air on August 7th for a Weapons Gauntlet Royal Rumble style match, as well as an interview. He was already mad at TNA because at the Victory Road show, he had a scheduled vacation until the 15th. And that pay-per-view, of course, was the 13th. And he figured he's not booked on this pay-per-view. It's in Houston, by the way. And then he got a call that he had to be on the pay-per-view. So he cut his vacation 2 days short. And when he got there, his only segment was that deal where he told Joe he had his back and told Joe that not under any circumstances did he have to worry about him. And after he saw the script of the show, he gets mad that it's a weapons match because he doesn't like being in weapons matches. And there's a constant complaint within the company that there are too many weapons matches. And even more so now that they're doing a weapons gauntlet match on free TV, when we're selling a pay-per-view that includes a weapons cage match, a weapons street fight, and a last man standing match, and a chain match. Then he saw he was being eliminated third, and he's going to be eliminated during a commercial break. And he figured that since he at this point is supposed to main event the September pay-per-view against Joe, none of this made any sense. And there were stories that also made him mad at how he was going to be eliminated. But the impression I had is the script he saw only mentioned BG James, Lance Rock, and Nash as the first three guys out, all doing the first commercial break. Nash said he wasn't doing it and went home. And while that would have been it for 90% of the people on the roster, obviously he knew he'd get away with it. And even people who aren't enamored with Nash were not criticizing him for this one. It appears the idea stemmed from the story a few weeks back about Vince McMahon being mad at how Michael Cole went to a break, and people would think a match can't end during the break since they never do. Russo saw this as one of those things that never happens in wrestling, so he wanted to do it. But instead of having one guy eliminated, well, if one guy is good, then three must be better. What do you remember about Kevin being frustrated? Do you remember the hurt feelings about cutting the vacation short? And where did you stand on this whole, hey, yeah, it doesn't make sense that nobody ever loses a match during a commercial break. Maybe we should. And Kevin Nash saying, not today.
If Kevin was hot, It wouldn't be the first time, wouldn't be the last time. But me and Kevin always had a good relationship. And if he didn't really like something, he would either come to me or text me. But look, he may have not liked it. As far as the eliminations, Conrad, I'd love to see the format because I'm not sure. Nash, BG James, yeah, maybe we just for time's sake eliminated during the break. And when we come back out of it, we show the replays. That's an option. Or in the format is those three are going to get eliminated before we go to commercial break. So it sounds like maybe some good newsletter reading, or it may be completely accurate. But at the end of the day, an elimination in the Battle Royal isn't something to leave TV about.
Right.
And the pay-per-view verbiage, him coming back early, if that is the reality, look, nobody likes their vacation cut short, but kind of going back to the Tomko set of circumstances, when you're writing TV, you kind of want to write TV with your crew. And I just can't imagine us saying, nope, he's got a vacation in the books. We told him we could have off, and we're going to renege on that. I just don't see that happening. But again, good story for a newsletter.
Meltzer would say, you guys had some house shows for 3 days before you do 2 days of TV. So maybe it's just 5 days of these guys working together. Not that Nash was on all those house shows, but Tomko was. But he felt like maybe there was more grumpiness than normal, which I guess is logical.
So we go off the air with the Charlotte police on doing their guns. It's real.
Yeah.
It's on.
Yeah.
So we're flying back that night, and Bischoff's, and we're in the private, and he goes, we're going to put Vince out of business. We're going to put Vince out of business. And I said, dude, do you realize what happened tonight? I said, the perception that two guys from the WWE jump ship and are going to take over your company, the people believe that. They think two guys can beat 100. I said, no, you're not going to put him out of business. I said, he'll sit back and watch. And Hogan said the same thing. That's what Vince did. Vince sat back and watched. And I won't forget the day of my life when Tyson came to that WrestleMania. And every WrestleMania match had a movie quality trailer in front of it. In case you hadn't been watching, you were caught up. This one, Kane was shooting fire. I mean, everybody, it was amazing. The next day I go to TV and I just knew. Man. I mean, you watch something, you're smart to the business.
Tony Atlas and Vinny Vegas. Like, I want to see those promos. Don't you want to see some Kevin Nash, Tony Atlas promos? That would have been hilarious.
It's a super shredder.
What was your experience in your film debut as Super Shredder in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2? Popped as a kid when I read Kevin Nash in the credits. Did you have to take any bumps crushing the dock?
I had to take a bump when the dock crushed me, like when they caved the dock on me. They only had one shot because they weren't going to knock that fucker down twice.
It's all coming down.
They're like, and they're like, just like bumbling around me. They're like, how protective do you think that helmet is you have on? And I'm like, well, it's just like fucking fiberglass. Why? What? Would you be opposed because there's like no way we could stunt you or build no? It's like if we cave this set on top of you, and I'm like, well, a lot of it's balsa. I said, And I Terry Leonard was over, and like I could see Terry Leonard over there. Because he was second unit, was going to shoot it, and he went like this.
Oh, ask for
and I said
bonus or something.
I said, would I get a stun adjustment? And they said, well, of course. And then they offered me a stun adjustment. It was like $1,200, something like that. I was just like, nah. Yeah, you can crash this motherfucker on me.
And you did it.
Yeah. And then the dramatic when Shredder's hand comes through. Fuck! When I saw that, I said, "How does somebody not see that and see Olivier?" I mean, it was just there. It was just fucking there. I thought after that fucking just that dramatic, oh, I thought like fucking this is it. I'll never wrestle again.
But I'm sure there was some sort of backstage segment once with Kevin Nash on TNA, and he's telling people what to do, let's say, and someone says, "So what are you going to do?" And Kevin Nash goes, "I'm going to do what I do best: sit in the back, get paid, and do nothing."
Yeah, that was probably in one of those segments.
Was Kevin Nash a good thing for TNA? I know he commanded a high price tag, of course he did, but he didn't wrestle that often, but he was on the TV shows a lot, just in backstage segments. But was he just a joy to work with? Was he good for TV ratings? You tell me.
I don't think he was good for TV ratings. I think he was there because he had a name. But I don't think he wanted to work that much, to tell you the truth. He was there, but we didn't really book him in a lot of stuff because we had all the X Division guys there. And TNA was all about that high-flying stuff. And let's face it, Kevin Nash is not a high flyer. You can look at him and tell that. And he was good on the mic, and he got such a big price. I don't know what he got, but I think he got more than everybody else got, and more power to him. But as far as figuring something out for him, we didn't have the baby faces for him to work with. He was a heel. We didn't have really the baby faces for him to work with, because if you're paying somebody big money like you're paying Kevin, you just can't take them out there and beat them, because now you make them kind of worthless. So I tried to put him in things I thought he would be most beneficial in. Of course, those little shots in the back, I don't know if that helped ratings, but it didn't hurt ratings. And he was there, I think he was there, he was there a year, I guess.
Oh, he was there quite a few years, I think. I mean, I think he left in maybe 2010, but I can even look that up, in fact.
Well, see how long he was there.
Did Kevin Nash ever sit in on creative meetings?
No, not that I recall. And I don't remember him, not to me, pitching any creative ideas either. I think he was shooting when he says, my job is to sit in the back and catering. And I think that's what he thought his job was.
I may blow your mind here. He was in TNA for 7 years, from 2004 to 2011. Yeah. So was he just in and out?
Well, we put him with Scott Hall for a while, but we never really, we did something with him and those two and Jeff to start off with.
How did it feel to return to the World Wrestling Federation in 2002 with Scott Hall, with Hulk Hogan? Was there any sort of
It was great when they laid out the original plan, but then it was like too soon. It was kind of like like having the Confederate Army, in Washington D.C. Like as part, we were still viewed as the enemy, and we came back and we were supposed to, like, Scott was supposed to go over Austin, Hogan was supposed to do a job, but we were supposed to kill Rock, leave him in a pool of blood. Thank you. The day of WrestleMania, both those things changed. We both got stunnered, and Hogan turned babyface, and we came down, and we got beat up again, and that pretty much was the end of it. And I mean, it was Vince. Vince. I guess Vince didn't realize he owned the mark, but
it screams personal issue between Punk and Nash.
Like, I saw something like Punk was on social media or something like that, and he was stating that he was added to the video game along with Terry Funk and a couple of the like Sandman and some other guys, ECW hardcore guys. My only thing is this. I tore my quad. Well, it happened. A lot of people just don't know about it probably because I came back quicker than a tricep tear. But so he's saying he's going to be back for SummerSlam. He tore that motherfucker in January. I'm just saying, fuck, I tore my tricep, had it reconnected, and fuck, I didn't miss a pay-per-view. Thanks for the guaranteed money. Don't get fucking paid and see how long you fucking lay around with your fucking arm in a fucking sling. It's always been clicks. You work together because guess what? That's what you have to do.
Did you was it at least a harmonious locker room? Talking about WCW now.
There weren't fist fights. I'll just say for myself and for Scott, when we walked in that locker room, we sure as fuck weren't welcome.
What happened as far as Scott passing and the timeline. But Scott had was locked down. It was in a little duplex. He lived in New Smyrna, or Smyrna, I think it is, Smyrna, Georgia. It's over by where the Braves Stadium is.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott was getting Grubhub, and he had some Chinese takeout place that would bring him vodka. And he told me all this shit. It wasn't like, and he was making some Kool-Aid, and he put the plastic pitcher up to the refrigerator, and the ice went in it, but a couple of the pieces of ice, as always, bounced out and landed on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
They went over, stirred it, and I'm sure it was Crystal Light because he always ate pretty clean. And he was going back to get something, and like one of those pieces of ice caught his heel. He did the fucking whoops-a-daisy and fucking landed and broke his other hip.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in the middle of his living room. I mean, not the middle of his kitchen.
Yeah.
And he's in so much pain he can't move. He tries to move several different times. He can't move. Finally, he passes out. He wakes up, and it's nighttime. So he has no idea. He can see his phone, where his phone is over by his recliner, and he's in between that and the Kool-Aid. So that he ends up passing back out, wakes up, and at this point he's just like, I'm so dehydrated. I'm gonna, and he's got a defibrillator, and a pacemaker in his heart. And he's like, I'm gonna croak if I don't get some fluids. So he turned and just gutted it, and got his back to the cabinet and reached up with two hands. He said like he was picking up a Fabergé egg, and got that pitcher of Kool-Aid and just drank it like through the spout, sip by sip. He said, slowly it was like he got, enough to him, and he was able to just drag himself and he called 911, and they came and got him, and they took him to the hospital. So he went to like Kennestone Hospital, which is, like a fucking two out of 5-star hospital.
Mm.
And I don't think that Scott had insurance. I know Scott didn't have insurance. And but he needed to get the hip fixed. And he had some other problems and some other issues, and they did some CAT scans, and he had some kind of perforation in his bowel, and
as a result of the fall.
I don't know. As a result of CT scans. And I talked to him a couple of times on the phone. I talked to him every day when he was in the hospital, because there was an actual landline that I could call. And Dallas was really a great friend during this, as far as being there for Scott. And what we're going to do is, Dallas had just gotten remarried to Paige, his new wife, and they had talked about it. And Dallas, asked would it be cool, because Dallas has got Dallas is the only motherfucker on earth that like upgraded his life at 60. You know, he's got a big ass fucking house. Everybody else is trying to get out of their shit, you know. And Dallas is like, fuck it. I don't have any kids. I'd die. Fuck, what are they going to do? So,
if you turn the house into a production studio for your rehab show, you get to write the whole fucking thing off, don't you?
Well, I mean, he's got a studio. He's got a hell. For a while there, his studio was doing half the AEW fucking editing and everything else when they fucking first kicked off. He's done well. So he was keeping me in the loop, and then but they were going to bring when it came time to get Scott out of the hospital, they were going to bring him to Dallas's, and he was going to stay at Dallas's and kind of recover there. And so I talked to Dallas. I was in Bobby Fulton had some show that I was at. I was signing with Kurt Angle, and that was on Saturday. And I got a call Sunday morning. God, it was early, and it was Paul. And Paul said that Scott had 3 heart attacks, and it was like didn't look good. And so I tried to get a flight to Atlanta, couldn't. So went back to Daytona Beach, and then couldn't get a flight out of Daytona Beach. And then they were just, at that point, they said that, you know, they were going to pull the plug. And the doctor said that it would be, you know, maybe 10 minutes that Scott be alive. So before they pulled the plug, we all the Click guys got on speakerphone, and we all talked to him. Cried, basically, is all we did. And it
was a few hours later, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, it was like 7 hours later, and Scott was still alive. And Scott's brother said that the only reason Scott's still alive is because he wanted to make sure that he lived long enough for Dana missed her fucking flight and she couldn't go back to Colorado. And I said, fuck yeah. I said, that's my boy right there, man. But, yeah.
You know he heard you guys, because they do say the last thing that goes is the hearing. So to anybody who gets that opportunity to say something, even though you think someone can't receive it, there's enough evidence that they do. So
yeah,
it's good that you guys did that. How did oh, you know, I got to go there. How did WWE do with handling Scott's passing? So close to what was the date that Scott died? Was it? Let me see. I have it here.
13th, 7th. I don't know.
Right, and that was coming up right on. Let's see.
It was right before
March
WrestleMania.
14th. So WrestleMania was coming up about a month after that. So how is that going to go?
It was WrestleMania was much closer to Scott's death than that, because WrestleMania, we didn't have the service. We didn't put Scott to rest and have his service till after Mania. So there was some talk about doing some things.
But the service was a couple of weeks after that, wasn't it? Wasn't there some time after the passing? I kind of remembered that it was.
He passed March 14th.
Right.
When was WrestleMania?
April 2nd. Okay, so it was 2 weeks, about 2 weeks.
Yeah. And they wanted to do some things, and I just told them, I said, man, you guys can do whatever you want to do. You know, there was talk about doing like a hologram thing with Scott and some other things. I said, you guys can do whatever you want to do. I said, I'm not going to fucking say anything
negative about anybody that wants to do something for him.
This may have a sobering effect on Mr. Hall. Jackhammer time.
I'd rather work with my buddies, but if the guy's not my buddy, but if he can go, or if he brings, if I have chemistry with him in the ring, I don't care if I get along with him in the locker room or have dinner with him or something. But some guys you get in the ring with and you just click. Right. You might not click anywhere else, but in the ring, and it's not even you and him maybe, but it's the way the people react to you. And you go, oh, this is going to be easy. Like remember how over we had Luger? Yeah. We had Luger so over that Hulk dropped the strap in Auburn Hills.
Yeah, Detroit.
And Sting bitched.
No, it's true though. There's certain guys like Lex was a guy that could always do his part.
Right, kind of in the Hogan way.
Yeah,
he knew his role. He could win. He could,
he looked
impressive looking. He could do his interview like that.
When I guess Bischoff was demoted and Russo took over in Power, did it affect you guys at all?
No. At that point there, I mean, it was just,
a done deal.
Yeah, it was. You could see the writing on the wall.
I should probably apologize publicly for the way that I did business or didn't do business with Vince Russo, because
he's a TNA man. We can leave here and go. We got another run left, bro.
No, but do in person. No, but I mean, yeah. I just won't say it now because he's probably the kind of guy who watches these things. But
not anymore.
I just I don't know. Like I have a bad problem about saying what I think, and I say what I think. And sometimes in wrong settings. I don't have real good people skills, and so it was real hard. I wasn't comfortable with him booking my career. So when he'd say things, I was always but when I should have just.
Did you always saw him as the guy? At our first run, he was the magazine guy.
And to me, he came in with, and maybe deservedly so, but the way I viewed it was, there were such marks at WCW that said, oh, we're going to get the guy, this is the guy that popped Vince's TV. And having worked for Vince, you're going, you don't get it, man. He's a small cog in a big-ass machine. Nothing gets done up there without passing by Vince's desk.
Yeah, Vince never signed up on it.
It wasn't like Russo was writing the TVs, He may have been writing, but they're all run by other people for approval.
And I think, and that's probably, that situation will never happen again, because at that point, Vince was in trouble. I mean, financially, the show was in trouble. There were times we were doing double their numbers. So, I mean, it's one of those deals where, like, they're grasping for straws, and Russo, started slowly pulling it out. At that point, Vince had no choice. Now, with them being the number one, that would never.
Vince went R-rated then too.
Yeah,
absolutely. And he knew that Turner's TV was more conservative, and Turner wouldn't do that. They started shooting up the girls' skirts. They started.
Yeah,
they started. I mean, they had their top babyface doing stuff like this. They were cursing on TV, and we weren't allowed to do that.
No.
I got in trouble the time he booked us with those porno broads in Phoenix. It's a sweet match. I just watched that.
I don't have that. I'd like to watch
you should see that. All you cared about was the one girl who was like a freak, remember? She was Oriental.
Yeah, giant.
But they wouldn't let her work, but then you just went, boom. I'm not doing anything.
I'm not doing it. I brought her all the way, because I was at that
thing in Frisco, watched my Frisco. That guy called me, you don't want to work with Angle? And Sid?
No. Fuck, I'm not taking a bunch of German suplexes. Fuck that.
Oh, like you used to?
I'm not going to put let's not talk business right now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry we're talking business.
Right. I think we were going to Macon, and I said, I got to drive right by there and pick you up. He goes, what are you driving? I said, I got a Cadillac. He said, all right, because we had enough room. So we got in the car, and
to interrupt, we're both muscleheads too, so we know we're going to train and eat,
Yeah. So on the way back, I think we stopped and got some beers.
No.
Yeah.
Must have been your idea.
Yeah, it was. I think it was your first beer, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, not my last.
And so we're sitting there doing this old school cars. Back, we had to mess with the radios.
Of course. Now, Kev, what year caddy was it?
This was 86.
But you got to remember now, Kev's 6'11" and 3/4 in his socks.
Right.
So even in a caddy, his knees are like way up, even with the seat jack back. So I just want to throw that in.
He stands 7 feet.
How's your life, buddy? Bet you ain't better than mine.
New club that opened in Buckhead, and I'm in there with a white Cavaricci suit on, no shirt on. I got a choker and white boots, white pants, white jacket. And I broke up with some chick, and she's there with her boyfriend. And so something happened, and we just had gotten the club, and it was a really happening club. And so we're sitting there, and the girl says something, and the guy steps up and goes, "Don't talk to her that way." Pow! I knocked the guy out. She throws red wine on my white outfit, and I turn around right into the chest of Kevin Nash. Well, the belly button of Kevin Nash. And I look up, and he goes, "Bagwell, you did it right in front of me, man." So I go, "Kevin, please don't kick me out, man." And so he had to kick me out.
Fernand Schnavitz III, what was your initial thoughts of WWF doing the fake Razor and Diesel gimmick? You've probably been asked this a lot.
Yeah, and the answer's always the same thing. Thanks for the raise. Thanks for getting me out of fucking going into the Hall of Fame the first time as Diesel. Because I said, "Nah, fucking you want Diesel? Ask Glenn. I'm going in as Nash. I'm gonna own that shit. It's gonna say Kevin Nash, Hall of Fame, and it's gonna say Diesel."
Wait up, what's he doing in there? Watch out from behind! The big boot! Uh-oh. Oh, no! Oh, got a jackknife!
Yeah, Eric is out.
Right back at you, HBK!
Nash comes out with a bottle of beer, drinking. He's got a Big Daddy 99 jersey, which I think we should also sell.
Big Daddy 99? Oh, that was so good.
He climbs over the top rope, turns his hat backwards, jackknifes Goldberg, and says, "F*** you."
He says, "F*** you," then middle fingers. Two middle fingers, and then "F*** you." This is the greatest.
And then he jackknifes Steiner just for fun. And then
the one
he
on
has a stare
Steiner
down
was
with
massive, bro.
Yeah, it was good. And then stare down with Booker T to end this absurd
And then
episode.
you're forgetting. Kevin Nash goes back and grabs his beer that he set down on the stairs.
Oh, he keeps
and then
drinking.
continues
Yes, sorry.
drinking it. That's awesome.
The Sexecutioner's got the book, Daddy.
What led you to giving Kevin Nash the book?
I was burnt. I was tired. I was demoralized. I hadn't had a good idea in so long. I thought I forgot how to have one. I was just beat. I was getting my ass kicked corporately. There were so many things going wrong corporately. And it had nothing to do with, had everything to do with Time Warner and AOL and jockeying for position and WCW really being stomped to death from a corporate perspective, which precipitated their downfall. I was just fed up.
Okay. How would you compare Kevin to Kevin Sullivan? I'm sorry, yeah, Kevin Nash to Kevin Sullivan, and even yourself heading the creative end of the company?
Kevin Sullivan was one-dimensional. He had a pretty good, foundation. Had good experience at a certain level, but everything was. A lot of his stuff was just dark and non-commercial from where we were at the time and what our needs were. He had great finishes. It's one of the things. That's one of the reasons I brought Kevin in. And Dusty Rhodes suggested I bring Kevin in because Dusty had worked with Kevin, and Kevin was great with finishes, and Kevin really understood heat. Everybody uses the term. People in the business and outside the business use the term. Very few people understand the different kinds of heat and how to create it, and the heat that's valuable and the heat that's not. Kevin had a really good feel for heat, but when it came to the creative that was used to build up to the heat, it was kind of a one-show pony.
Okay.
Or a sameness, because the one-show pony sounds derisive, and I don't mean it to be, but his style or his feel was all very similar. So he had his value, but it was limited. Kevin was a little bit like Scott in that he had a very good feel for certain things. Scott had a great feel for almost everything. If you were Rey Mysterio and Scott Hall wanted to try to help you through something or come up with an idea for you, he would come up with something for you that was like tailor-made for you.
Right.
Okay. Whereas Kevin, he wasn't as broad as Scott had the potential of being. But you know what? He was there to help me. You know, he could see it on me. You know, Kevin and I have had our ups and downs over the years. Not ups and downs. We've always been friends, but you know, he could see in my eyes how fucked up I was at the time.
As we close out the 90s, Scott Hall began having some personal issues. Do you think anything could have been done to help Scott during that time period in WCW's end?
No, because I tried. He was in rehab a couple times. You know, we accommodated him every way we possibly could have done. So if something were possible, I don't know what it would have been because we tried as much as we could have.
What was Scott like to work with?
Scott was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. When Scott was clear-headed and not under the influence, he was and probably is one of the most brilliant guys I've ever been in a room with when it came to laying something out and taking a vision and articulating it in a way that everybody in the room could see the same thing he saw in his head. He was really great. He had a great feel for the audience. You and I talked a little bit during the tape change about what it takes to be involved in creative. And some of it, a lot of it is art. It's that feel for knowing how an audience, this unique audience, is going to react to something. And I've never been in a room with somebody when Scott was clear-headed who was more talented at that part of our business than Scott. The other guy would show up and it was like you wanted to shoot him.
How did you deal with that?
Yeah, I tried different ways, tried reasoning with him, tried talking with him, tried to get him help, tried to, you know, be the tough guy with him, you know, tried to beg him. What didn't I try?
Would you allow partying in the dressing room? Because you'd hear stories from, you know, at the Nitro taping, some of the boys would have beer in their locker room and whatnot. Was that just pretty much frowned upon or just it's part of the business? You guys were on top of the world and let the boys do their thing as long as they're not getting...
No. It's not like this is a deposition, but did some of the boys have beer in their locker rooms? Yes. Did I permit it? Yes. Did everybody do it? No. In retrospect, bad idea. But it was part of the culture. It was part of the business. Nobody really ever abused it. There were never nobody ever went out in a ring and, you know, wrestled drunk. It was never excessive from my perspective. So, honestly, it's, you know, it wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah. What do you remember of the Nasty Boys incident with Hall and Nash?
I wasn't there. I mean, I know it happened, obviously, and heard about it and got involved in it, but, you know, it's unfortunate.
Around this period of time, describe the week in the life of Eric Bischoff. How crazy was it for you?
What year? What time?
That's 96, 97?
Yeah. It's the reason I ask what time specifically, because when it was just Nitro, it was pretty intense. It was creative. It was managing talent. It was dealing with all the internal office issues because remember, I had every one of the main departments reporting up to me. So there was a lot of hands-on. My days were typically 12, 14, 16-hour days. I traveled, you know, left every Sunday, usually. Got home Tuesday, went right back to work, worked through the weekend, did it all over again. So it was intense. It was hard. It got insane when we were doing Thunder. You know, now
I'll ask you about that.
Yeah, I was doing 2 live national cable shows, 5 shows in syndication. That's a lot of television. I think we were producing like 300 hours of television a year at one point. It's a lot of TV. And I was hands-on 75% of it.
Who did you travel with back then?
It depends. You know, in the beginning when we were doing Nitro, we were flying commercial.
Right.
Towards when I got really successful, and especially when we started doing Thunder, there just wasn't enough time to even fly commercial. And even the economics of it, it was cheaper in many cases to just charter a small jet and put 6 or 8 people in it that were otherwise going to fly first class anyway. And and charter jets. And then it depends who was available. You know, a lot of the guys, I lived in Atlanta, so Scott Norton I traveled with.
I was going to ask you if you hung with the boys.
A couple of them. I didn't hang with Scott away from, although I came up with Scott in AWA as well. He's a great guy. But Page, you know, Steiner's occasionally, whoever was close.
As Nitro evolved, one of the criticisms at the time was that the show was written extremely late, sometimes going on the air with announcers and others not knowing what was going on in terms of like the plans for the night. Why was that?
Oh, first of all, I don't know that it was always true. Certainly it was true sometimes. And without a doubt, anytime you're producing a live show, Vince McMahon to this day, and I just read a Business Week article last night on the plane, actually, or on my iPhone, that just came out about how Vince changes the show right up until the last minute. And it's not necessarily because of bad planning or not being able to make decisions, but shit changes. You get injuries that happen. Somebody comes up to you at the last minute with a better idea. What are you supposed to do? Not change it? Not do it because it's a better idea? Because
eliminated by Diesel, eliminated by Diesel, eliminated by Diesel. Crystal clear, like the emotions of that night. Without that push, I don't get the IC belt. I don't end up in the garden against back. My favorite match of my life. The first time we worked of any significance was King of the Ring. It was the IC champ versus the world champ. I think it was in Baltimore. I'm not sure. Neidhart came in and interfered. Diesel went over on DQ. Brett really taught me that main event style. He was very, very giving. Everything he did was snug, but it was safe. It's like,
It's the third man. Look at this picture. Call this the new world order of wrestling, brother.
The whole career, was it as
I think I always worked I worked hard there. I wasn't good. I got in good shape. I think the main event mafia thing could have been like that. That was money. Mm-hmm. That was they let Book go for fucking it was a bad move to let Book go. And then once Book left, so I said, "Fuck, I'm bolting." And I heard Book was going to be at that Royal Rumble. I said, "Shit, not without me." So I dyed my shit black and went out there.
Were you afforded more creativity there than in
at TNA?
Yeah, than in the bigger federations.
Yeah.
I know you were involved a lot creatively.
I think it just I was creative. Once you know what the fuck's what's up, I mean, you have to be part of the process.
Well, not everybody's good at it, though. I mean, the stuff.
Yeah, but if all you need is one person that's good at it, because I promise you, the guy that's good at it doesn't want to look fucking bad at it. You know, it's like I remember fucking Scott would always be like, "Don't smarten him fucking up." Like, dude, we got to work with him. What do you mean don't smarten him up? Like, well, don't say anything when he's got your fucking job.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, Scott would always be, don't fucking smarten him up.
Other workers you're talking about? Or
yeah,
unbelievable.
Be like, you're the one that fucking's got the brain.
Unbelievable. Do you get, when you do signings, do you get TNA merch coming up, or is it still mostly just NWO/Diesel?
Shit, I get a new figure every 4 months, about 4 months.
TNA?
No, for WWE.
Oh yeah, no, I know, but I'm saying, do people come up with TNA merch to sign?
No, I mean I've signed some figures.
You were there for 6 years, which is the amount of time cumulatively of your WCW run, which would have been 90 to 93, and then 96 to 2000. I did not realize you were there for 6 years.
Yeah, that's a long time. That was nice because, I could still. We only did 2 weekends.
Mm-hmm.
One weekend and then another taping. So we worked 2 weeks, 2 days, 2 weeks apart. So 4 days total a month, 5 when you did the pay-per-view. And you could still work around it. I was young enough then where I was working probably 2 weekends, like doing 2 indie shows, tags, but I bump a little bit, enough to fucking make, keep the match going.
How were you physically at the time? Was it starting?
I was still good.
Okay.
My knee was really starting to get to the point where it was just like I'd been in pain for so long with it, man. It was so fucking bowed in and just dissolved and just weak. And I finally, I got when I got it done. I mean, I knew that I was done wrestling. Whenever I said, when I go to get that done, that's it. Like I'll never do, because, once you get a knee replacement, you got a G.I. Joe leg. It bends like this.
Oh.
It doesn't have any rotation.
Oh.
No.
What about your neck? Was that before or after TNA?
Which one? Which time? I've had my neck broke twice.
Right. So yeah, because you were, what was your age? TNA was.
I was probably 43.
Oh, all right. That because you still
maybe
you did that 55. You had the match.
I know I was 50 still working at TNA. I'm pretty sure I had gray hair. I had long fucking gray hair at TNA. That was one of my fucking things I always wanted to do. I always wanted to fucking look like Sam Elliott in Roadhouse and play that character.
Or Bob the Killer in.
But I was just too much of a jack off. So,
Kevin, as we roll on, there was a piece this week I saw that it's unbelievable to me. First of all, that the Montreal Screwjob still gets play. Well, what's left to say about it? If you're not going to have the debate that we talked about, is it a work or not? What the hell is there to talk about? There was a headline I come across about Brett tells the truth. I thought there was going to be something revelatory here about the punch.
So they did exactly what they wanted. They got you.
They got me to click the goddamn article. Exactly. Because it came out, they referenced a new interview with Brett. I thought,
that's exactly how long they'll do it. Forever.
Yes, I know.
It always works.
You know what?
Come on, man. If they had, you wouldn't watch a half-hour live TV show. They said they were going to open Kennedy's assassination files.
I would, with the expectation that I'm going to get something
fucked
that I don't have before.
You're going to get fucking Al Capone's fucking vault is what you're going to get. Didn't Geraldo say he was going to vote for?
Oh,
he was going to vote for Kamala.
Oh, did he switch teams?
I'm sure. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. He kind of buried her after the Fox thing, though. So, but he said he was going to vote for.
Hashtag Ask Nash is how you're going to do this part. Go onto the socials, type hashtag Ask Nash, and that's how you get to Big Kev, like Aaron Carter did. Hey guys, I dig the podcast. I'm not sure the official way to ask a question, but I hear a lot of the same type questions. Mine is simple. What's your preference, indica or sativa?
Sativa. Not even. There's never a time I would want to smoke indica. Maybe a sativa indica blend, but I'm a sativa person.
Very good.
I don't like that. I don't like.
It makes you too mellow.
Yeah. The sativa, this is a nice blend I took tonight, and I don't get stoned very often, and I do drops. I usually do at 5 milligrams. I did 10 tonight, So I basically double dosed myself. So there were times, man, where I was just like, now my body still metabolizes stuff so fast that in 2 hours it's gone.
Right.
You know.
Oh,
like
really? So you'll be down in 2 hours.
I'm done.
And I started wearing his shirt every TV. I kept wearing that purple Razor shirt that he had. I was just like, then everybody was. Except Sean got hot. Yeah. Because he was staying. Yeah. Why is everybody wearing his shirt? I remember talking to Kev, going, Kev, man, I'm leaving. And he went, I'm staying. That was before you had that match with Brett in the cage, when Taker came up to the...
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. I was going to stay, and then we had the match. It was like an In Your House, I think it was in Louisville. And I had, at the Royal Rumble, Taker had Brett beat, and I fucked him. So then Taker came back in the next one, and I should have had, what I want to do is have to go ahead and powerbomb Brett. As I walked to go open the cage, have Taker grab me and pull me in.
But he came up from underneath.
Sweet. Right. He came, but you know, Brett wouldn't let me stick him with my finish to where it would have been a clear win for me, and but it would have taken me and Mark's angle to the next level, because I would have cost him the championship, he would have cost me the championship. We were talking about doing business because we knew at this point we were going to be co-main event at WrestleMania 12, and. Brett was already going to be in the main event, and Brett already had the angle with Sean because they were going 60 minutes. And Brett just fucking boo-boo face. We're sitting there in this room, and he goes, and Brett kept going, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? And fucking Taker, who never really goes off, goes, motherfucker, this isn't about you. It's about me and Kev. It makes our match better. I don't want to do it. So we just went back and forth. I walked right down. Scott was standing by the apron. I walked right down. I said, I'm fucking out of here. Tell Bischoff I'm coming too.
Because then I went, oh, good. Because just by coincidence, our contracts ended within a days of each other.
Well, I think we were 13 days apart.
But I had been there a couple of years or so before. But then I remember going, and you had this contract with WCW that's private, can't show it to anybody confidential. So I went, well, if you go, and then I had this favored nations clause where they said, this is all we can afford, this is it. We won't mind putting that in writing, then we. So if anybody else comes in and gets paid more and gets more perks, you got to match it for me. So then they said, well, list, we can't do anybody. List 10 guys, top 10 guys in the business, you think. Right. So Kev was one of my guys. So I said, Kev, this is what I'm getting. If you come in, try to get more, get more.
So we went in, and then then it was a situation where then we came in and got over, and then we fucking we renegotiated on them, I think, twice in the first 6 months.
Right. I think it was 3 times altogether in 18.
Yeah.
Because when they wanted to hire Brett, they came to us again. Remember?
Yeah. Brett wanted big money, which they would have had to pay us.
And we called him. That's the time he didn't come.
Yeah. We said, fucking do it, dude, because we're going to become richer if you come.
When I took the deal with WCW, I remember the last show for Vince was in Madison Square Garden, the famous Woo, where we got in trouble and broke kayfabe. I really felt like I was just getting the money. I had no idea that NWO thing was going to blow up like it is. I had no idea we were even doing the NWO. I hadn't talked to Bischoff at all. It had all been through lawyers and agents. And I met him. I drove to Macon from Atlanta in the car with him.
When he pitched the idea to you guys, did you guys think in the back of your heads that it was going to get over as well as it did?
He pitched it to me, and
Kev came up with the finish at Bash at the Beach and made it so hot. And Hulk messed up the finish, a little bit. And we never got the 1, 2, 3.
Right.
But other than that, it was sweet.
Yeah, because they didn't have a third man. And I pitched the idea. I said, I called him. I said, what if we did this? And he said, oh, fuck. He said, that's money. So I pitched to Eric, and he pitched it to Hulk. And you can say what you want about Hulk, but Hulk ain't gonna let that fucking money train leave without him getting a fucking seat on it. So, but when Eric came to my house and pitched me the NWO idea, I saw that. Like, I still got that basketball vision. It was more of a twist. He came to my crib, and we went out to a strip club, and I lived in Phoenix then. It was the Bourbon Street Circus out in Phoenix, and he pitched the idea to me, and I thought, In my mind, I thought, like, yeah, that'll work because it's going to look like fucking we came over from, from Vince's TV. I mean, that's going to, it's really going to work. But I'm thinking, in my mind, I'm thinking, fuck, legally, can we do that? Which obviously we couldn't.
I remember the first TV I was on, Bischoff was just going to send me down the aisle and have me go and do an interview, like I worked for WCW. And it was Larry Zbyszko's idea to send me through the crowd and interrupt the match, but not interrupted by jumping the guys. Just walk in and start talking and have the two guys work and go, "Oh, hey Scott, what are you doing? We're having a match." No, this is more important. And I know that they're not going to jump me because they're not supposed to. So I just go and start talking. I don't even look at them. And that was all Zbyszko's idea. And I thought that was crucial because
very crucial.
That hadn't been done.
No.
And I remember the only thing they told me to say, well, they told me a few things, but they said, "You people know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here." Because that was a big deal in the lawsuit that started that day.
Yeah.
Did either of you guys sense jealousy from WCW boys when you guys went over there and you guys started getting really over?
Well, fuck yeah. I mean, it was a situation. But it's the same thing that happened when we went back to Vince in 2002 or whatever it was. You walk in someplace and everybody's, pissed in their little spot, and you go in there and you get over because no matter what they want to say about Scott and I, the reason it always works is because it's real. I mean, you can put two guys together, but just like if two guys have that bond, it's just like, and they knew. I mean, the reason NWO worked is because fucking people would watch the show and go, "Well, that luchador shit and that, this and all that," but that shit at the end with those guys, those big fucking guys, that shit's real. You can't tell me that's not real. And that's all people want. I mean, it's easier to believe too big. His work's real snug. And I mean, he's way more talented. I mean, he can work any style, but our work's snug enough to where there's not holes in it where you go, "Oh, that didn't look good," or that.
Yeah, not many groaners with us.
No,
We'll potato you.
Yeah, we'll cement mix you before we'll fucking miss you.
Remember that time at MGM at Disney when we did the thing? They opened the show with us in the back, and you spiked Mysterio into the thing. And